What I've done is I've developed this philosophy of ruthless compassion as a way to really help you identify ways that you can be happier and also get more out of what you want in life. And that could be anything. That could be relationships, business, creativity, and also success. What ruthless compassion really is about really becoming the ideal, optimal self that you can be and really manifesting your full potential. So basically, we start out in relationship with yourself because that's the first relationship you have, right? You're living with yourself, you're dealing with yourself. And ruthless compassion is really a philosophy that I brought together based on two opposites, which is compassion, which everyone knows about, and ruthlessness, which probably people don't understand. And my problem with the concept of compassion, the way we use it today, is that so many people think about compassion and they think that's being nice and giving and caring and loving, which is true, but a lot of people misunderstand compassion and they tend to be taken advantage of, they tend to be caretakers, they tend to be rescuers, they tend to tolerate disrespect from people because they think, oh, if I'm compassionate, I have to be meek and mild and, take disrespect and always be nice and always be helpful. So ruthless compassion is about evaluating yourself honestly, but with kindness and tempered with patience and understanding and forgiveness. Because if you're too harsh on yourself, you're not going to look at yourself. I'm sure all of you have had experience with the inner critic. And the inner critic is that voice in your head that wants to put you down, that wants to tell you what to do. And that inner critic is really the internalization of all the negative voices that we heard when we were growing up, whether it was our parents, our grandparents, anyone who was critical or negative, and they dumped all that stuff, and it gets put into the head, and we carry it through our lives. We really need to not confuse the inner critic with the part of ourself that wants to be, that has ambition and a drive to be better. A lot of my patients are, involved in relationships or starting relationships, and they have a lot of fantasies and a lot of hope and a lot of wishing, and they talk themselves into things and out of things. So when they're dating with someone and the person doesn't call, and they don't call, they say, oh no, they're going to call, and they start hoping and wishing and convincing themselves of falsehoods. They'll show you if they're interested in you by their behavior. Pay attention in reality. Don't go into fantasy. Stay grounded in reality and watch. Open your eyes, open your ears, open your heart. Don't get judgmental. Don't put up a wall, but pay attention. You'll see. And so ruthless compassion is really, don't get caught up in fantasy. See the truth. And if someone's behavior is confusing, it's because they're confused and it's never going to work out for you. Now, if they're not courting you from the start, they're going to get less and less attentive as time goes on. And that's also in business, right? If someone's not enthusiastic at the beginning, do you really think they're going to become enthusiastic as time goes on? So whether you're in a love relationship or in a business relationship, they need to show you right away that they're interested and that they're engaged and that they're willing to put themselves out for you. And also in dating, who the person is now is who they're going to be. And don't deny what you see. So if they're lazy and sloppy and late and, never really follow through what they promise, again, it's not going to get better, and we talk ourselves into, oh, it's going to get better. I want it to get better, so I believe it's going to get better. That's called magical thinking. I want something to happen, therefore I convince myself it's going to happen, and I'm sure you do it in business as well. It doesn't happen. Maybe in the TV and the movies, not in real life. So ruthless compassion is really not getting caught up in fantasy and paying attention to what's really there and who's really there in front of you. In friendship is really all about a mutual exchange, right? And you can have friendships that are very intimate. You can have friendships that are more casual. You can have business-based friendships. In all friendships, you want to give support and caring, but you're not a caretaker or a rescuer. So you're not wasting energy, depleting yourself on something where you're not getting back. And the same thing is, if your friend gets into trouble, every time you take care of your friend who gets into trouble, you basically teach them that every time they get into trouble, they'll be taken care of. If you pick them up every time they fall down, they'll keep falling down because they know, oh, someone's going to pick me up. That's not friendship, that's codependency. Ruthless compassion says you've got to allow an adult who is with it to learn from their mistakes, to have the consequences of their mistakes. Otherwise, how are they going to ever learn? You're not actually doing them any favors. It's It's killing them with kindness if you do too much for your friends. And ruthless compassion is the opposite of that. It's saying, okay, I'm going to be a little bit tough with you. I'm going to let you have the consequences of your bad choices. But that's because I respect you as an adult, and I respect the fact that you're capable of learning. And if I don't let you learn, I'm basically coddling you and treating you like a baby. When you love someone, a lot of my patients say, well, you know, I make excuses for them. I justify their behavior. They had a bad childhood. They had a hard time. Love does not mean you tolerate disrespect, neglect, or abuse. Love means you respect yourself as well in the relationship, so you don't put up with crap. And you need to be clear about what you need and what you feel, because how do they know what you need? But also, when you tell somebody what you need and what you feel, and this goes also in business, you find out a lot about the person. How do you know about who you're with if you don't express what you need and what you feel? How they react gives you essential information about who you're with. So if somebody gets defensive or irritated or hostile or tunes out, when you just simply express, listen, I need this or I feel this, well, it tells you that they don't respect you. And if they don't respect you, they can't really love you. With your partner, of course, they have to love you as you are and give you what you want. And if you talk yourself out of what you want, you're only going to be unhappy. You know, I've had patients tell me where they're trying to negotiate their needs and they say, well, it's okay, I can give this up. But you know, whether in business or in love or in friendship, there are certain non-negotiables and there are certain negotiables. So it's great to compromise about the negotiables, but everyone's got their list of non-negotiables, the things you cannot live without and the things you cannot live with. If you tolerate the things you cannot live with and you give up the things you cannot live without, you're going to be unhappy, you're going to be frustrated, and that frustration is going to leak into your relationship, whether it's love, friendship, business, any relationship. So ruthless compassion says, don't settle. You deserve to have what you want in your life, and the person you're with, whether it's love, business, whatever, needs to know this is who you are, this is what you need, you respect yourself, and you expect them to respect you. Now, healthy confrontation is really a good thing. A lot of people are afraid of confrontation because they're terrified about someone's reaction. That's in relationships, friendships, business. We're terrified to say, listen, this is what happened, this bothered me, this upset me, this angered me, this pleased me, you know, but this other thing didn't, because we're so afraid that the other person's going to have a bad reaction, right? If you're a kid and you go to your parents or your teacher or your coach or somebody and you talk about how you feel and what you need, a lot of the times the big grown-up is not going to respect you because they have their own agenda. And so it teaches you to fear confrontation when you get older. What ruthless compassion tells you is that you're an empowered adult now, and you don't have to fear confrontation because there's only two outcomes. They can negotiate in good faith or not. If they negotiate in good faith, it teaches you that you can have a good give and take with that person, you can have a good relationship, and you can, both of you get what you want. If they don't give you what you want, if they're defensive or hostile or tune out, then it gives you information that this is not a relationship I want to continue, whether it's a personal relationship or a business relationship. When you're with a child, you have to be realistic with the child. Ruthless compassion says, don't give them false praise based on things that aren't real about them, because they're not going to trust you, and you want your child to trust you because then they're going to open up and share with you what's really going on with them, and that's how you can prevent them from getting into trouble as they get older. You want to keep those lines of communication open. If you praise them for things that they know they haven't accomplished, they're going to think, they just are always, you know, telling me stories, and so they won't trust you. Base your praise on things that are real. They'll believe it and they'll take it in as well, and that will build their self-confidence. If you base their praise on something that they didn't do, it's not going to have any positive effect on their self-confidence. You also have to call them on their bad behavior, because if you don't set limits, they don't know what's expected of them. But you don't ever want to shame your child. The kiss of death with a child is to shame or humiliate them. As soon as you do that, their self-esteem goes down, their trust for you goes out the window, the resentment starts to build, and things just start to fall apart. And that's when you get the rotten teen. Yes?
When you say shame and
yes.
Shame, is that publicly or?
Either way, any way you shame a child is going to really upset them. So you can, if you slap a kid, that shames them, because any kind of physical assault to them is very shaming, because you're bigger and stronger and they know that they are defenseless against you. So if you use that greater power over them and slap them or hit them, immediately it shames them. It's the same with a partner. If you shame your partner at a dinner party, if you put your partner down, or if they put you down at a dinner party, that will kill the love quicker than anything. So shaming and humiliating people, really not a good technique if you want positive relationship. Yeah.
So then what's a good way of tackling, not good behavior for a child?
You get very simple, and especially the younger they are, the simpler. So when you do that, that's not okay. You can't do that. This is why you can't do that, and here are the consequences if you continue to do that. And you make the consequences very simple and very direct, and not bigger than the thing.
How would you deal with the victimizing, people who use victimizing themselves or the guilt?
Yes,
How
yes,
would you
yeah.
deal?
People who go into the victim role are really perfect people for someone who wants to practice ruthless compassion, because ruthless compassion has that ruthlessness. So you have to see the person who's, I feel sorry for myself. Life is so hard. It's so hard. I'm sick. If you love me, you'll take care of me. You know what? I really think that that's emotional blackmail. And ruthless compassion says emotional blackmail is not acceptable, because the victim role is for one reason only. It's to get rescuing, right? But the problem with being a victim is that no matter how much the person rescues you, you'll never be happy if you're a victim, because it never fills that bottomless pit of need.
I've had things done to me,
Yeah.
maybe acts of betrayal, that I found very hurtful. I tried letting it go. Very difficult. I didn't know how.
There are a number of different techniques for letting go. I have a lot of them in the book, because my book is, it's about letting go of addiction, but it's really about letting go of a lot of different things. It's letting go of your childhood wounds, it's letting go of anger, it's letting go of shame, it's letting go of self-loathing, it's empowerment. And so I talk a lot about letting go, but one of the exercises is about really connecting to your feelings. So there's grief and there's rage and there's shame. So grief, you have to grieve, you have to do active grieving. Rage, you have to actually get your rage out. And there are lots of different ways you can constructively release your anger, which is not destructive. So writing, drawing, sports, sometimes women clean the house, it's like a really great way to get your anger out. Jogging, whacking a ball. So there's different exercises for getting out your rage. And then getting out your shame, which is really to sit with your inner child and talk to your inner child, your child within, and really tell them that this is not your fault. Because a lot of times when someone betrays us, we say, I should have seen it coming, I should have known it in advance, I should have done something differently, and then this wouldn't have happened to me. And that shame sometimes is the biggest reason we can't let go, because we're beating ourselves up. So ruthless compassion says, you don't shame yourself for having made a mistake. You're human, we're fallible, we're imperfect. You learn, say, okay, what is my learning here? And when you heal the shame, when you let go of the shame around, I got tricked, and I should have been smarter, I should have been better. When you let go of that shame, you let go of your grief, you let go of your rage, and you let go of that shame, and you learn from it. You take responsibility to learn, okay, what do I need to do differently? How did I get tricked? What do I need to change about myself so that I don't get tricked? Maybe I was too trusting. Maybe I was too hopeful. Maybe I denied some signals that I saw. That's all fine. That's human. What do I need to do differently in the future so as not to get tricked? And if I get tricked again, not to beat myself up, because we're human and some con people are really good at what they do, then you can let it go.
People will spend the money, they'll find you,
Yes.
they'll invest in themselves,
Yes.
and they still won't get better.
Yes.
So how do they know, and how do we know
Yes.
that we're sabotaging ourselves?
Yes. Motivation for change, I think a lot of it comes from fixed beliefs and self-love. Those are sort of two facets, because if you love yourself enough, you want to change, right? If you don't love yourself enough, you're not going to want to change. I think everybody who comes into my office, or everyone here today, has some self-love because they want something more from life, right? If you have a little bit of self-love, you want to do better, because you feel like, why shouldn't I? I love myself, I want to be happier, I want to be more successful, I want to do better in life. So a little self-love is good. But I have patients who have such self-loathing that that little tiny spark of self-love that occasionally goes off is kind of buried in this big pile of self-loathing. A little bit of good attitude can change a lot of things in life. And for therapy, it's paramount. So if you have a bad attitude, i.e., if you really don't believe that it's possible for you, if, oh yeah, the other person can change in therapy, but not for me, I'm stuck, well, then you're going to be stuck. So you have to shift your attitude, you have to love yourself more, you have to believe in yourself more, you have to overcome your self-loathing. And therapy can do that. So sometimes people come with a lot of doubts, and then you work with that, and you can heal that, you can help them let go of their doubts, help them love themselves more, and then when they've let go of some doubts and they've loved themselves more, then they can take the next step and the next step.